Why is it so hard to break a bad habit? The human experience is a tapestry woven with threads of intention and action, ambition and inertia. We often find ourselves striving towards self-improvement, yearning to shed undesirable behaviors that hinder our progress and diminish our well-being. Yet, the path to breaking free from bad habits is often fraught with challenges, marked by repeated attempts and frustrating relapses. This begs the fundamental question: why is it so incredibly difficult to dismantle these ingrained patterns of thought and behavior? Even when we consciously desire to do so, the answer lies in a complex interplay of neurological, psychological, and environmental factors that conspire to keep us tethered to familiar, albeit detrimental, routines. At the neurological level, habits, both good and bad, are deeply encoded within the structure and function of our brains. The formation of a habit begins with a conscious decision, a deliberate action repeated over time. As this repetition occurs, neural pathways associated with the behavior become stronger and more efficient. This process, known as long-term potentiation, strengthens the synaptic connections between neurons, making it easier for the brain to activate these pathways in the future. Eventually, the behavior becomes automatic, requiring less conscious thought and effort to execute. This shift from deliberate action to automaticity is a hallmark of habit formation and is largely governed by the basal ganglia, a region of the brain involved in motor control, procedural learning, and habit formation. The basal ganglia work in a loop, receiving input from the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, and sending output to motor areas. As a habit develops, the prefrontal cortex becomes less actively involved, and the basal ganglia take over the execution of the behavior. This allows us to perform routine tasks, such as tying our shoes or brushing our teeth, without consciously thinking about each step. While this automaticity is efficient for many everyday activities, it becomes a significant obstacle when we try to break a bad habit. The neural pathways associated with the unwanted behavior are well established and deeply ingrained, making it difficult for the prefrontal cortex to exert conscious control and override the automatic response triggered by the basal ganglia. Furthermore, the brain's reward system plays a crucial role in the reinforcement and maintenance of bad habits. Many bad habits, such as smoking, overeating sugary foods, or engaging in excessive screen time, trigger the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This dopamine surge creates a positive reinforcement loop, making the behavior feel pleasurable and increasing the likelihood of its repetition. Over time, the brain learns to associate the cues, triggers, that precede the bad habit with the anticipation of this reward, leading to strong cravings and urges. When we attempt to break the habit, we are essentially disrupting this reward pathway, leading to feelings of discomfort, withdrawal symptoms, and intense cravings that can be incredibly difficult to resist. Psychological factors also contribute significantly to the tenacity of bad habits. Habits often become intertwined with our emotional states and coping mechanisms. For example, someone might overeat when feeling stressed or anxious, using food as a source of comfort or distraction. Similarly, smoking or drinking might be used as a way to cope with social anxiety or negative emotions. These habits become maladaptive coping strategies, providing temporary relief from unpleasant feelings. Breaking the habit requires not only addressing the behavioral pattern itself but also finding healthier and more effective ways to manage underlying emotional triggers. Moreover, bad habits can become deeply ingrained in our sense of identity and self-perception. For instance, someone who has smoked for many years might identify as a smoker, and this label can influence their beliefs about their ability to quit. Similarly, someone who habitually procrastinates might view themselves as a procrastinator, making it harder to envision themselves as someone who is organized and proactive. These self-limiting beliefs can create a powerful psychological barrier to change. The power of routine and familiarity also contributes to the difficulty of breaking bad habits. Habits often become integrated into our daily routines and environments, acting as anchors that trigger the unwanted behavior. For example, Having a sugary snack while watching television in the evening might become a deeply ingrained routine. The cues associated with this routine, such as the time of day, the location, or the act of turning on the television, can automatically trigger the urge for the snack. Disrupting these established routines and creating new, healthier ones requires conscious effort and planning. Environmental factors also play a significant role in the perpetuation of bad habits. Our surroundings can provide numerous cues and triggers that make it difficult to resist unwanted behaviors. For example, having junk food readily available in the kitchen can make it harder to stick to a healthy eating plan. Similarly, being surrounded by friends who engage in a particular bad habit, such as smoking or excessive drinking, can increase the social pressure to conform and make it more challenging to break free. Furthermore, the lack of immediate negative consequences associated with many bad habits can make it harder to prioritize breaking them. While the long-term effects of habits like smoking, excessive drinking, or unhealthy eating can be severe, the immediate gratification they provide often outweighs the perceived distant risks. This temporal discounting, where we place a higher value on immediate rewards than on future consequences, makes it difficult to sustain the motivation needed for long-term behavioral change. The process of breaking a bad habit also requires sustained effort, willpower, and self-control, which are finite resources. When we are tired, stressed, or mentally depleted, our ability to resist urges and stick to our intentions is often diminished. This is why relapses are common, especially during periods of stress or fatigue. Finally, the psychological discomfort associated with change itself can contribute to the difficulty of breaking bad habits. Even when we consciously desire to change, the unfamiliarity and uncertainty of new behaviors can be unsettling. We might cling to familiar habits, even if they are detrimental, because they provide a sense of predictability and comfort. Overcoming these multifaceted challenges requires a comprehensive and strategic approach. It involves understanding the neurological and psychological underpinnings of habit formation, identifying the specific triggers and rewards associated with the bad habit, developing alternative coping mechanisms for underlying emotional needs, challenging self-limiting beliefs, modifying environmental cues, and cultivating sustained motivation and self-compassion. Strategies for breaking bad habits often involve awareness, becoming acutely aware of the habit, its triggers, and the rewards it provides. This involves paying attention to when, where, and why the habit occurs. Setting clear goals, defining specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART goals for behavioral change. Identifying and modifying triggers, recognizing the cues that precede the bad habit and either avoiding these triggers or changing the routine associated with them. Finding healthy substitutes, replacing the bad habit with a healthier alternative that provides a similar reward or meets the underlying need. Breaking the reward loop, disrupting the immediate gratification associated with the bad habit. For example, by delaying the reward or making it less appealing. Building new habits, consciously practicing new, desired behaviors until they become automatic. Seeking support, enlisting the help of friends, family, therapists, or support groups for encouragement and accountability. Practicing self-compassion, recognizing that setbacks are a normal part of the process and avoiding self-blame after a relapse. Focusing on progress, not perfection, celebrating small victories and maintaining a long-term perspective. Understanding the power of willpower and its limitations, recognizing that willpower is a finite resource and implementing strategies to conserve it, such as avoiding tempting situations and establishing clear routines. In conclusion, the difficulty in breaking bad habits stems from a powerful combination of deeply ingrained neural pathways. The allure of dopamine-driven rewards, underlying emotional dependencies, the comfort of routine, environmental cues, the prioritization of immediate gratification over long-term consequences, the limitations of willpower, and the psychological discomfort associated with change. Understanding these intricate factors is the first step towards developing effective strategies for dismantling unwanted behaviors and cultivating healthier, more fulfilling patterns of life. While the journey may be challenging, with awareness, persistence, and the right tools, it is indeed possible to break free from the grip of bad habits and pave the way for lasting positive change.